You think you know Bloody Mary, the darkened bathroom, the mirror, the chant repeated 3 times. It's just a game, isn't it? A dare to test your courage at slumber parties, a childhood rite of passage that ends with nervous laughter and racing hearts. But what if I told you the woman you're summoning is real? What if this children's game preserves the memory of actual murders, actual queens, actual horrors that span centuries? Because once you learn who Bloody Mary really was, once you understand what the mirror actually means in this ritual, you'll realize this was never just a dare. It was an invitation to something far darker than you ever imagined. You need a darkened bathroom, the kind of darkness that feels thick and heavy around you. A single candle provides the only light, its flame flickering and casting shadows that dance across the walls. You stand before the mirror, and in the dim light, your own reflection looks strange, unfamiliar, almost like someone else wearing your face. And then you speak her name. Some say 3 times, the magic number that appears throughout folklore and religion. Others insist it must be 13 times, a darker, more ominous version that tests not just your courage, but your commitment to seeing this through. Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary. Or sometimes the chant changes, becomes more sinister, more accusatory. I killed your baby. Bloody Mary, I have your child. Words that seem random until you understand their true meaning. And what happens when you complete the ritual? The experiences people claim vary wildly, but certain patterns emerge again and again across cultures and generations. A face appears in the mirror, but it is not your own. Sometimes it is a woman with hollow eyes, blood dripping from empty sockets that stare at you with an intensity that freezes your blood. Sometimes it is a figure so grotesque that witnesses refuse to describe it fully, as if speaking the details aloud might summon it again. Others report scratches appearing on their skin, 3 parallel lines that were not there before the ritual, marks that burn and sting as if something with claws has raked across your flesh. Some claim to see blood dripping down the mirror itself, materializing from nowhere, running in rivulets down the glass like tears of crimson. And in the most terrifying accounts, people swear they felt something reach out from the reflection, cold fingers trying to grab them, trying to pull them through the glass into whatever realm exists on the other side of that silvered surface. But here is what makes this ritual different from every other ghost story, every other supernatural legend. Bloody Mary does not accidentally appear. She does not haunt a specific location or manifest at random. She is invited. You choose to summon her. You create the conditions, speak the words, open the door. And that choice, that active participation in your own terror, makes whatever happens next infinitely more frightening. Because if something appears in that mirror, if something answers when you call, you did this to yourself. So who is she? Who is this woman that appears when summoned? And why does she answer? The truth is, no one knows for certain. But there are theories, and each one is darker than the last. The most famous candidate is Mary Tudor, daughter of Henry VIII and Catherine of Aragon, who ruled England from 1553 to 1558. History remembers her by a nickname that speaks volumes about her reign, Bloody Mary. And the nickname was not metaphorical. It was earned through rivers of blood spilled in the name of religious conviction. To understand how she became Bloody Mary, you need to understand what shaped her into the queen she became. Mary's childhood was a nightmare of political manipulation and psychological cruelty. When she was a young girl, her father broke from the Catholic Church so he could divorce her mother and marry Anne Boleyn. Overnight, Mary went from being a beloved princess, heir to the throne of England, to being declared illegitimate, a bastard with no claim to power. Picture young Mary, perhaps 13 years old, being told that everything she knew about herself was a lie. Her mother's marriage was invalid. Her own birth was illegitimate. Her title was stripped away. And then came the final humiliation. She was forced to serve her infant half-sister Elizabeth, the daughter of Anne Boleyn, the woman who had replaced her mother in her father's bed and on England's throne. Imagine being a teenager, stripped of your title, your inheritance, your very identity, and forced to bow to a baby. The psychological damage ran deep. carving scars into Mary's soul that would never fully heal. When Mary finally took the throne at age 37, after years of humiliation and fear, she had one consuming goal: to return England to the Catholic faith her father had abandoned, to restore what had been taken from her mother, and to undo the Protestant Reformation that had destroyed her family and her childhood. And she pursued this goal with terrifying single-mindedness. Picture Smithfield Market in London on an autumn morning in 1555. Crowds gather as wooden posts are driven into the ground, their bases surrounded by bundles of kindling and logs. The condemned are led forward, men and women whose only crime was refusing to renounce their Protestant faith. They are chained to the posts while more wood is stacked around their feet. The fire is lit, and here is where the horror truly begins. The wood is green, still damp, burning slowly and creating thick smoke that chokes the victims before the flames reach them. Some take hours to die, their cries echoing across the market square while children watch and merchants pause their business to witness the execution. The smell carries for miles, acrid and sickening. The smell of burning flesh and hair that clings to clothes and lingers in nostrils long after the fires have burned out. This happened not once, not twice, but hundreds of times during Mary's 5-year reign. Nearly 300 Protestants were burned alive in public spectacles meant to terrify and convert through fear. This is how she earned the name Bloody Mary, not as a ghost story, but as historical fact. But there is another layer to Mary's tragedy, one that connects directly to the ritual we know today. Mary desperately wanted a child, an heir to secure her throne and continue her religious mission. At 38, she married Philip II of Spain, driven by urgent need to produce a son before age made it impossible. And then something extraordinary happened. Mary's belly began to swell. She felt movement inside her, the flutter and kick of what she believed was new life. Court physicians confirmed her pregnancy. The kingdom prepared for a royal birth. In May 1555, rumors spread like wildfire that the Queen had given birth. Bonfires were lit across London in celebration. Church bells rang from every tower. People danced in the streets, rejoicing at the news of a Catholic heir. But days passed, and no official announcement came from the palace, because there was no baby. There had never been a baby. Mary's pregnancy was phantom, a cruel trick her desperate body and mind played on her. Her belly had swelled, but there was no child growing inside. She had felt movement, but it was something else. Perhaps a tumor, perhaps simple delusion born from want so powerful it could convince her body to mimic the signs of life. The promised heir never came. And then, impossibly, it happened again. A second phantom pregnancy, a second public announcement, a second devastating disappointment when reality could no longer be denied. Think about the psychological horror of this. A queen so desperate for a child that her body mimicked pregnancy twice, that she felt life growing inside her where there was none. She issued a statement that God would not allow her child to be born until all the Protestant dissenters were punished, and another round of executions began. Now think about the ritual. Think about the chant that some versions use. I killed your baby, or I have your child. These are not random words chosen to sound spooky. They are carefully designed to hurt a specific victim. If Mary Tudor is the woman in the mirror, the ritual is not just summoning her spirit. It is taunting her with the loss she never recovered from, mocking the heir she desperately wanted but never had, reopening the deepest wound a childless queen could suffer. But there's another Mary, another queen whose life ended in blood and violence that might explain why her spirit lingers in mirrors. Mary, Queen of Scots, became Queen of Scotland at 6 days old, was married to the King of France at 15 and widowed at 18. She returned to Scotland to rule a hostile Protestant nation as a Catholic queen, a position that made her enemies on all sides. Her beauty was legendary, her charm undeniable, and her personal life became a scandal that would ultimately destroy her. Her second husband, Lord Darnley, was found dead under suspicious circumstances. His body discovered in a garden after an explosion destroyed the house where he slept. Some historians believe Mary was involved in his murder. Others claim she was framed. The truth remains unclear. But what is certain is that she was forced to abdicate her throne, imprisoned by her cousin Elizabeth I of England for 19 years, and finally executed for treason. Picture Fotheringhay Castle on February 8, 1587. Mary spent her final hours preparing her appearance, choosing her clothes with care, arranging her hair precisely. Even facing death, she wanted to present herself with dignity, to be remembered as a queen rather than a traitor. The executioner raised his axe. The first blow missed her neck entirely and struck the back of her head with a sickening thud. Mary's lips moved, but no sound came out. Her vocal cords severed, but consciousness perhaps remaining for those horrible seconds. The second blow failed to sever completely, cutting deeper, but still not finishing the job. It took a third strike, a third brutal chop, to finally remove her head from her body. When the executioner lifted her head by the hair to show the crowd, witnesses reported that her lips were still moving, as if trying to speak words that would never be heard. And then came the final horror. Her small dog had hidden beneath her skirts throughout the execution, trembling in fear. When her body fell to the scaffold floor, the dog emerged, covered in her blood, and refused to leave her corpse. This is a death steeped in violence and vanity, a woman who cared deeply about her appearance right up until the moment of her beheading. Renaissance courts were obsessed with mirrors. They were status symbols, expensive and rare, polished metal or backed glass that reflected not just your image, but your wealth and power. Mary would have spent countless hours before mirrors, studying her legendary beauty, using her looks as a tool of power and charm. So imagine a woman who died violently, whose last thoughts might have been of how she looked, whose head was held up as a trophy, while her lips still moved in death. Does her spirit linger in mirrors, appearing when called by those foolish enough to summon her? A queen who died watching her own reflection fade, now trapped forever in reflective surfaces, waiting for someone to speak her name. But the most common version of Bloody Mary in American folklore isn't a queen at all. She's known as Mary Worth, Mary Worthington, or sometimes just Mary. And here's what makes this version truly terrifying. There is no historical evidence she ever existed. The origin stories contradict each other wildly, depending on who tells the tale and where it is told. In some versions, she was killed in a car accident, her face mutilated beyond recognition in the crash. In others, she was a witch executed during the colonial witch trials, burned or hanged for practicing dark magic. Some claim she murdered her own children and was killed by angry villagers seeking justice. Others say she was murdered by her husband in front of a mirror, forced to watch her own death in the reflection. The details shift and change, but the mirror remains constant. Always the mirror, always the reflection, always the summoning. The fact that Mary Worth probably never existed makes her more frightening, not less. Because she is a composite, a collection of fears and tragedies woven together into a single legend. She is whoever you need her to be. The murdered woman seeking revenge, the witch returning from the grave, the spirit too angry to rest. She adapts to whatever scares you most, and she is not limited by historical fact. She is limited only by imagination and fear. But to understand why Bloody Mary works, why this ritual continues to terrify generation after generation, we need to understand mirrors themselves. Because mirrors have never been simply objects that reflect light. They've always been magical, dangerous things that exist on the border between the physical and spiritual worlds. Ancient cultures believed that mirrors don't just reflect your image, they trap a piece of your soul. The Romans thought that when you look into a mirror, you are seeing your soul made visible, exposed and vulnerable, to forces that might wish you harm. Breaking a mirror meant fracturing your soul, which is why the superstition of 7 years of bad luck persists even today, centuries after anyone truly believed in the original explanation. Greek and Roman priests used mirrors for scrying, staring into polished bronze or still water to see visions of the future or receive messages from the gods. They believed mirrors were portals, gateways to realms beyond human understanding. Medieval Christianity inherited these fears and amplified them through religious doctrine. The church associated mirrors with vanity, one of the 7 deadly sins. To spend too much time gazing at your reflection was to worship yourself rather than God, an act of spiritual pride that could damn your soul to eternal torment. But mirrors were also believed to be tools of demons. Occult texts warned that demons could be summoned through mirrors, that reflective surfaces could serve as doorways, allowing malevolent spirits to cross from their realm into ours. When someone died, mirrors in the house were covered with cloth or turned to face the walls. The belief was that the soul of the deceased might see its own reflection and become trapped in the mirror, unable to move on to the afterlife. Picture a medieval household when death has visited. Candles burn beside the corpse laid out in the great hall, while servants move through the rooms draping black cloth over every mirror, turning polished metal surfaces to face walls. Because if grandmother's spirit sees herself, she might not understand she is dead. She might try to stay in her reflection forever, trapped between worlds, neither fully departed nor able to return. By the Victorian era, spiritualism had become fashionable across Europe and America, transforming from a fringe practice into mainstream entertainment. Seances were social events where the wealthy and educated gathered to contact the dead, sitting in darkened parlors decorated with heavy velvet curtains and ornate furniture. Mediums, usually women dressed in flowing black garments, would sit at tables while participants held hands in a circle, waiting for spirits to manifest. Sometimes tables would shake and levitate. Sometimes mysterious knocking sounds would echo through the room in patterns that seemed to carry messages. Sometimes the medium would claim to channel a deceased loved one, her voice changing in tone and accent, speaking in altered cadences and revealing secrets only the dead should know. Mirror scrying, also called catoptromancy, was a popular method for contacting the deceased during this era. The process was specific and ritualized, passed down through occult texts and whispered instructions. You would sit in a darkened room with heavy curtains blocking any outside light. A single candle would provide the only illumination, positioned carefully so its flame would not directly reflect in the mirror. You would have a mirror before you, either handheld or mounted on the wall. You would stare into the reflection, not at your own face, but through it, as if trying to see beyond the glass, into whatever realm existed on the other side. Minutes would pass as your eyes strained in the dim light, your vision beginning to blur and shift. Then, according to those who practiced it, something would appear. Sometimes it was a deceased loved one, their face materializing in the depths of the mirror. Sometimes it was a spirit guide offering wisdom from beyond. Sometimes it was faces that did not belong to anyone living or dead, figures that moved independently of the viewer's reflection. This was considered mainstream entertainment. Newspapers advertised seances alongside theater performances, and books on spiritualism became bestsellers displayed prominently in respectable homes. Even prominent scientists and intellectuals attended spirit sessions, hoping to find empirical proof of life after death. The Bloody Mary ritual may have originated during this era, when summoning spirits was considered entertainment rather than sacrilege, when the boundary between life and death seemed thin enough to cross with the right words and the right conditions. But there is also a scientific explanation for what happens during the Bloody Mary ritual, and it is almost as unsettling as the supernatural one. Psychologists have documented something called the strange face illusion. When you stare at your own reflection in low light for an extended period, your brain begins to play tricks on you. The neural pathways that process faces start to misfire. Your features appear to morph and shift. Your face might seem to age rapidly, skin sagging and wrinkling before your eyes. Or it might become monstrous, features distorting into something inhuman. There is also the Troxler effect, where if you fixate on a single point, your peripheral vision begins to fade. In a dark bathroom with only candlelight, this means the edges of your reflection seem to dissolve into darkness. Your face appears to float, disembodied, and the parts of your reflection that are not in direct focus start to shift and change in disturbing ways. So science can explain what you see in the mirror. Your brain, deprived of clear visual information, starts to fill in the gaps with distorted images. But here is the question science cannot fully answer. Does that make it less real to the person experiencing it? If your brain shows you a demon in the mirror, if you genuinely see blood dripping down the glass, if you feel cold fingers reaching for you from inside the reflection, does it matter whether the cause is supernatural or psychological? The fear is real. The experience is real. The memory haunts you either way. The number of repetitions matters too, and the cultural significance runs deeper than most people realize. 3 has always been a number of power, the Holy Trinity in Christianity, 3 wishes in fairy tales, 3 tasks for the hero to complete. When you say Bloody Mary 3 times, each repetition builds psychological pressure in a carefully planned build-up. The first time, you are nervous but skeptical, your rational mind still in control. The second time, dread begins to build, your heart beating faster, your hands beginning to shake. By the third time, you have reached a breaking point where belief can overtake skepticism, where your mind is primed to see something whether it is there or not. But some versions of the ritual require 13 repetitions, and 13 carries its own dark weight. Judas was the 13th guest at the Last Supper, the betrayer who sold Christ for silver. Friday the 13th is considered the unluckiest day in Western culture. Traditional witch covens were said to have 13 members. In tarot, death is the 13th card of the major arcana. Making someone chant Bloody Mary 13 times turns the ritual into an endurance test that pushes the boundaries of courage and sanity. And that brings us to why this ritual is performed primarily by adolescents, usually at slumber parties, usually with a group of friends nearby providing both support and pressure. The Bloody Mary ritual serves a specific social function in teenage culture that goes beyond simple entertainment. It is a rite of passage that proves you are not a child anymore, that you are brave enough to face supernatural fears. Picture 5 girls huddled outside a bathroom door in the middle of the night. The house quiet except for their nervous whispers. They are giggling, but the laughter sounds strained and forced. They push one friend forward with whispered encouragement that is equal parts support and challenge. You have to do it. We all did. It is your turn now. Do not be scared. The chosen girl stands at the threshold, her hand trembling slightly as she reaches for the door handle. The door closes with a soft click that sounds unnaturally loud in the silence. A candle is lit, its flame casting grotesque shadows. Silence falls outside the door as the chanting begins, and everyone listens intently, ears straining for any sound, waiting for the scream they know is coming and hoping for it even as they dread it. The group dynamic creates intense peer pressure that makes backing out nearly impossible once the process has begun. No one wants to be the person who is too scared to complete the ritual, the one who chickens out and has to live with that label. If you claim to see Bloody Mary's face or feel her presence, the group validates your experience. You become part of the story, proof that the ritual works, evidence that the legend is real. Your courage is confirmed. Your place in the group is secured. But there is something deeper happening during the ritual that goes beyond social bonding. Adolescence is the age of identity formation, the time when you are asking yourself fundamental questions about who you are and what you will become. Who am I really? What will I look like as an adult? Will I be brave or cowardly, strong or weak, beautiful or plain? These questions haunt teenagers with an intensity that adults often forget or dismiss. The Bloody Mary ritual forces you to stare at your own reflection in darkness, to confront your own face stripped of the usual context and comfortable lighting you use to present yourself to the world. It becomes deeply symbolic before you even realize it. You are not just looking for a ghost in the mirror. You are confronting the unknown parts of yourself, the aspects of your identity that frighten you, the person you might become. The fear is not only of Bloody Mary appearing in the glass, it is of what you might see in your own eyes when you look deep enough, when you stare long enough to see past the mask you show the world. The internet age has transformed the Bloody Mary legend in fascinating ways. YouTube is filled with thousands of Bloody Mary challenge videos, teenagers filming themselves performing the ritual while their phone cameras capture every moment. The format is usually the same. They set up the bathroom with candles, explain the rules to viewers, start chanting her name, and then something happens, or they claim something happens, and they scream and run from the bathroom. These videos serve multiple purposes simultaneously. They are presented as evidence that the ritual works, offering proof for skeptics. They are entertainment for viewers who want to experience fear from the safety of a screen. And they are social media currency, a way to gain followers and views by being brave enough to face the legend on camera. The ritual spreads faster online than it ever did through oral tradition. Within hours, a video can reach millions of people across the globe, exposing the legend to exponentially more potential participants. So why does Bloody Mary endure when so many other childhood games and rituals have faded into obscurity? Part of the answer lies in mirrors themselves. Mirrors remain inherently unsettling objects. Your reflection is you, but not quite. It moves with you, but exists in reverse. It mimics everything you do, but remains separated by glass, existing in a space you can see, but never physically enter. In darkness, this strange quality becomes much stronger. Your reflection becomes other, something that wears your face, but might not be you anymore. The ritual also endures because it gives participants agency in a way that other supernatural fears do not. You choose to summon her. You control when it happens. Unlike ghosts that appear unexpectedly or demons that attack without warning, Bloody Mary is invited. That element of choice makes the fear more intense, because whatever happens next is your responsibility. You did this to yourself. And perhaps most importantly, Bloody Mary persists because she adapts. Her identity shifts based on culture and era, but the ritual stays the same. She is whoever you need her to be to make the fear feel real, and that adaptability ensures the legend will never become obsolete. So who is Bloody Mary, really? Is she Mary Tudor, the childless queen tormented by phantom pregnancies and religious mania? Is she Mary, Queen of Scots, the beautiful queen who died violently, her head severed in 3 brutal strokes? Is she Mary Worth, the fictional composite of 1,000 different tragedies and fears? Or is she something else entirely, a thought form created by generations of belief, given shape and substance by the accumulated terror of millions of people staring into mirrors and calling her name? What are we actually summoning when we speak those words? A ghost? A demon? Our own fear made visible through psychological tricks and neural misfiring? The most unsettling possibility is that it does not matter. Whether Bloody Mary is a historical figure or a modern invention, whether she is a spirit or a psychological phenomenon, the result is the same. People see something in the mirror. They experience genuine terror. They carry the memory for the rest of their lives, and they pass the ritual to the next generation, ensuring that Bloody Mary continues to answer when called. You will remember this the next time you find yourself in a dark bathroom with a mirror. You will remember the queens who died in blood and grief. You will remember centuries of belief that mirrors trap souls and serve as doorways to other realms. You will remember the psychological mechanisms that make faces shift and change when stared at too long in dim light. And you will remember that millions of people before you have stood in similar darkness, stared at similar reflections, and spoken her name. Some saw nothing. Some saw something they could explain away, and some saw her. So the choice is yours. Will you say her name? Will you find out what answers? Because Bloody Mary is waiting in every mirror, in every darkened bathroom, in every reflective surface where shadows dance at the edge of vision. She has been waiting for centuries. She will wait for centuries more. All you have to do is call her Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary.